Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Fox, and let's talk about cardiac auscultation. In this video, we'll discuss the heart sounds, explain the events that correspond with the heart sounds, and outline the general external locations for valve auscultation. So there are primary and secondary heart sounds. You might think of the heart as sounding like a lub-dub. That lub sound we refer to as S1. And it corresponds with blood turbulence going around the atrioventricular valves during systole. So, looking at this chart here, we can see ventricular pressure mapped against aortic pressure, charted against atrial pressure. And so when the green starts to spike, when ventricular pressure sharply rises, what we're seeing is ventricular systole. And so from about there until there, we have isovolumetric contraction. So we have the AV valves closed, the semilunar valves closed, and then the remainder of systole until that point. At that point, the pressure in the aorta is greater than the pressure in the ventricle, so blood is going to start to rush back toward the ventricle and close the semilunar valves. And then the AV valves will open up again. So, S1 that occurs right at the beginning of systole. The S2 sound, or dub, that is blood turbulence around the semilunar valves as they close during diastole. And so what's happening here is that the heart is relaxing and that ventricular pressure is dropping below aortic pressure. And so as that happens, the blood rushes back and it's going around the cusps and filling them and approximating the semilunar aortic valve cusps together, and we hear S2. But there are also secondary heart sounds that are audible. There's S3 and S4. S3 is a common sound that is often benign, heard in children. And what this is, the turbulence of ventricular filling. So we're in diastole and blood is rushing down through the AV valves into the ventricle, and there's a little bit of turbulence. So when this is audible, people refer to it as the Kentucky Gallop because it has that emphasis on the dub, and then so there's the lub and the lub and the dub, and then there's the S3. So it's S4 is a very rare sound that's often indicative of an atypical issue, usually ventricular noncompliance. And what's happening here is it's blood that's rushing around when during atrial systole, the blood is being pushed into the ventricles, but the ventricles aren't complying with that. They're not relaxing enough. And so the blood doesn't have as much room to fit in. That would be occurring in there. And because S3 has the Kentucky Gallop, this is more of a Tennessee. Again, very rare and oftentimes indicative of something that is atypical, whereas S3 can be quite common, especially in children, and it's very typical, oftentimes benign. Murmurs are abnormal sounds, and they might sound like a clicking or a gurgling or rushing. So it's when the clinician is listening to basically turbulence within the blood. It can be very common in young children, and it's very often benign. When it is present in adults, it tends to be indicative of a valve disorder. And to auscultate or to listen to the function of a valve requires a clinician to employ a stethoscope and to place that bell of the stethoscope in reliable places. Now, this illustration demonstrates the locations of various heart valves. So for instance, there's the aortic valve, there's the pulmonic valve, there's the tricuspid valve, and then there's the bicuspid valve. But we don't put the bell on the valve. We put the bell in the direction that blood will be flowing from the valve, such that that directionality will also carry with it sound energy. And so this requires counting intercostal spaces. And so there is rib 2. So to auscultate the aortic valve, this is the sternum here, we go just to the right, and that's patient right of the sternum in the second intercostal space. For the pulmonary valve, we go patient left in the second intercostal space. And sometimes we can also try left of the sternum in the third intercostal space. So that can be a little variable. The tricuspid valve, we go patient left in the fifth intercostal space, sometimes fourth, but generally fifth. And then for the bicuspid valve, we take a midclavicular, so fifth intercostal space. The mnemonic here is apartment, so A, P, T, like the Bruno Mars Rosé song, B. So aortic, pulmonic, tricuspid, bicuspid. Second intercostal space on the right for aortic, left second intercostal space for pulmonic, maybe left third intercostal space, left fourth or fifth intercostal space, but typically fifth for tricuspid, and left fifth intercostal space midclavicular line for bicuspid. So let's assess this knowledge. Where should the bell of a stethoscope be placed when auscultating the aortic valve? Is it A, the second intercostal space just right of the sternum? Why, yes it is. B, the second or third intercostal space just left of the sternum. That would be the pulmonary valve. That's not right. C, the fourth or fifth intercostal space just left of the sternum. That's not right. That's the tricuspid valve. D, the fifth intercostal space in the left midclavicular line. That is incorrect. That is the bicuspid valve. E, wherever you like. Auscultation is a vibe. Totally, dude. No, correct answer is A, second intercostal space, just right of the sternum. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to talking to you in another playlist. Take care, all. Bye.